Four ex-prime ministers of Lebanon are now demanding an international investigation into Tuesday's explosion in Beirut. Shock is turning to anger as residents process the devastating blast that tore through the city. Here's what one witness told Reuters just a few hours after the explosion.
Honestly, we were just sifting through the rumors, hearing all the rumors and trying to understand what happened, because there was lots of confusion, lots of rage that this could happen. With everything that's happening in the country, then the cherry on top. And on top of all that, you have to worry about wearing your face mask because you don't want to get coronavirus in the hospital for treating a small wound. So I think outrage would be the correct word to express what I'm feeling right now, 3 hours after what happened.
This disaster couldn't have come at a worse time for Lebanon. The country is already in the middle of a full-blown economic crisis. Currently, 1 in 3 people in Lebanon are unemployed. They're out of a job. The lira has also lost 80% of its value since October. Inflation is skyrocketing, and more than 45% of people live below the poverty line. All of this as Lebanon continues to battle the coronavirus pandemic. I want to bring in Lina, Director of the Middle East and North Africa Programme at Chatham House. She joins us live now from Loire Valley in France via Skype. Lina, thank you so much for being with us. So you heard the concerns of residents there. Lebanon is already dealing with so much. On top of dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, the economy is in freefall. And you've had mass protests with people expressing anger at the ruling class as well. Where does the country go from here?
Well, unfortunately, it's likely that the country is going to witness more challenges going forward. The people, as we heard, are outraged, and rightly so. And that's because they are holding the government responsible for this tragic incident that happened in Lebanon yesterday. And therefore, I expect Lebanon to see more public protests, more public calls for accountability. However, unfortunately, I do not think that the Lebanese government is going to be as responsive as it should.
OK, the government's not going to be as responsive as it should. A lot of people have said that there's probably not going to be that much accountability here. But over the long term, at least, what needs to change in order for ordinary Lebanese people to regain some sliver of faith in their institutions again?
The Lebanese people have been protesting in large numbers since last October because they have recognized that the economic problems faced in the country are the result of a deeply flawed political system that is in place, because it's a system that allows politicians to be in power yet rule with impunity. And so the only thing that would solve Lebanon's problems in the long term is a change in this political system. There has to be a new social contract in Lebanon and a system that is truly accountable and that delivers what its citizens need. Unfortunately, the ruling political class in Lebanon is not going to engage in such reform from the top down. The street has not proven to be strong enough to be able to force them to change their behavior. So perhaps this crisis, as a result of the explosion and with the dire economic situation that Lebanon is in as a result, of course, coming on top of existing economic deterioration, might be an opportunity for the international community to say to Lebanon, we can support you economically, but this comes with conditionality. You have to implement political and economic reforms for international aid to flow in.
OK, so that's one way, making the international aid conditional. With the international aid that is coming in at this point in time, given that Lebanon has had such a problem with corruption, are you hopeful that the aid will actually get to the people who need it most?
Actually, as we speak, the Lebanese are on the streets and on the social media saying that aid should not be given to the Lebanese government for distribution, that it should go directly to NGOs and community initiatives instead. And that's because the Lebanese have learned the hard way that foreign aid often ends up lining the pockets of the politicians rather than reaching the people who need it, who are the residents of Lebanon. The hope is that the international community will listen, especially that the Lebanese government has not yet formally accepted the offers of aid from countries like France or the UK who have offered to help. I think it is wise for these international entities to be mindful of the games that are now very familiar, that are being played by Lebanese politicians, whereby they use domestic crises to just enrich themselves, further impovering the population.
Lina Khatib, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us.